everyone, I'm Wawa Gathero. I am a climate advocate and the founder of Black Girl Environmentalist, and welcome to the third episode of EDF's Climate Conversations Curated. For the past few weeks, I've been getting together with EDF subject matter experts for down-to-earth conversations about climate solutions pathways. This week, we're talking all about zero emissions vehicles with Lauren Navarro, EDF's Senior Manager for Regulatory and Legislative Affairs, and Almeda Cooper from Moms Clean Air Force National Health Equity Manager. So let's jump right in. So my first question is for you, Lauren. You've probably heard about the importance of electric cars, but big trucks from delivery vans to garbage trucks are also going electric, and the environmental payoff is massive. How will the transition to zero emission trucks improve regional air quality and grow the economy?
Hi, Wawa, and thank you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a long answer, but that's because there's a lot of opportunity, and I want to cover it. So one thing to think about is that transitioning to zero emission trucks is one of the biggest opportunities we have right now to improve air quality and reduce climate emissions. And it also creates good paying jobs and actually saves money. And so the reason for this is, like, if you think about like a semi truck, right, that delivers to your local big box store or to a local warehouse, it's about has about the air quality of emissions of about 50 passenger cars. And so if you're able to take one of those off the road, I mean, you can see how that is an opportunity that can scale really quickly, right? So as I was sort of saying, like, despite them being a relatively few number of trucks, they actually produce a lot of emissions. They're one of the biggest sources of pollution on our highways, and they're the main source of NOx emissions, which harm people's health, and also climate pollutions in the U.S. And of course, as you can imagine, those people who are living next to freeways and warehouses and ports are the ones who are facing the greatest harm, and those are often the historically disadvantaged communities. And I mean, if you just look around you these days, climate change is all around us, and we're always hearing about its effects. I mean, it's almost the last few years has been unfathomable how big of a difference it's making in people's daily lives. So even, for those of us who are working on these issues for a long time, it's like, I mean, it's a daily, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this is happening. My colleague and I were actually talking about it yesterday. Just like even 15 years ago, we're saying, oh yeah, climate change is going to happen, but it's here. We see it all the time. So, so California really has really seen this in recent years with the wildfires. And Wawa, I don't know where you are. I'm located in California, and there, of course, are fires all over the West too. But the ones in the last few years have been really devastating. I have seen, I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you remember, and others on this call remember, before there were wildfires like this, right? We had clear skies all summer, and we can go hiking and like not worry about if there's going to be a wildfire where we were or not. The other day in Sacramento, where I am, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was all congested and I was coughing, and I was like, oh no, am I getting sick? But the reality was, as I looked out my window, which I'm doing right now, like I saw there was just lots of smoke, right? Lots of wildfire smoke in the air. So it was making me a little bit sick. Anyways, none of that happened before wildfires. And I'm not even one of the unfortunate people who has had to move or evacuate because there's a wildfire or a flood or anything. I mean, so anyways, thank goodness. And so the wildfires and weather events really affect all of us, whether really directly or indirectly. So I just want to say one more point, which is that there's really good news here. I think there's a bright spot, and that news is ZEV trucks, large heavy duty ZEV vehicles. Because as I mentioned, they're one of the biggest polluters, but there aren't that many of them. And I mean, there are a lot, but compared to cars, there aren't that many. So they're one of the easiest ways that we can really reduce pollution. They save a ton of money also when we switch them over to ZEV. So at one point on the economy is that the supply chain for zero emission trucks includes creating batteries. It includes research and training. It includes manufacturing, obviously. Like right now, as we're speaking, that industry employs 330,000 Americans. I want to make sure I get that number right because it's astonishing the numbers that are in some of these benefits. Like 330,000 Americans, and is injecting about $54 billion into our economy. That's billion with a B. So already, or in the next couple of years, many electric heavy duty trucks are going to be on par from a total cost of ownership basis with their fossil fuel counterparts. So literally they save people money, they save owners and operators money. And in fact, because of that, a recent analysis of a California regulation showed that that requires manufacturers to build zero emission trucks and sell them. Showed that it would save $6 billion for California, and that's mostly in fuel costs and in operational costs for truck owners. But you can imagine that that's going to save money for California consumers. And so that's all I have to say about the wow of trucks, ZEV trucks, and also the wow of climate change right now. So handing it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. And to answer your question, I'm in DC. So looking out my window, I don't ever have to worry about the concept of, it being smoky outside. But what's so interesting is I remember last summer when I was in New York, which is arguably farther from California, there were times where there was smoke in the air to the point where actually there was one day where the sun was extremely orange. And we later found out later that day that it was due to the wildfires and the smoke in the air all the way from California. So the reality is that these issues aren't even regional in the way that people might think they are. They're actually impacting people thousands of miles away in ways that people are just beginning to really see every single summer. So, Almeida, I'd love to ask you the next question. So obviously, Mom's Clean Air Force is a force when it comes to air quality advocacy. Most recently, you all stood alongside Administrator Reagan and Vice President Harris to announce the Clean School Bus Program. Can you tell us how you all were able to convince the federal government to invest so heavily in electric school buses? And can you let us know how many school districts stand to participate in this program?
Thank you, Wawa. It's exciting to be with you again. Yes, Moms really is thrilled at our part in making it happen for electric school buses. We've been involved, like many others in the climate organizations, over the last 18 months, and we have been involved in a big way with both our field coordinators, our staff, and our many volunteers. We put in tens of thousands of emails, hundreds of visits with elected officials, including members of Congress. We've also sent emails and petitions to members of Congress. We've also had many people who've been involved in participating in media conversations. I've had the privilege, for example, of being in a program with the Today Show, with on the online Today Show with Al Roker and our local correspondent Blaine Alexander, as well as a teenage scholar athlete from Atlanta, Rain Blassingame, and been on the Weather Channel and and the local GPS programming to talk about electric school buses. And also nationally, we've had hundreds of events, uh, again, all over the United States and particularly in Washington, D.C. You mentioned that we had the opportunity to be present when Administrator Reagan and Vice President Harris announced the Clean School Bus Program. And that was really amazing because we were able to have some of our children who are active with Moms Clean Air Force president and got a chance to meet Vice President Harris and Administrator Reagan, and that was a big moment for them as well. We're just thrilled that all of this hard work has created this amazing, and we have to think of it as a great advance, but also a beginning because there's more work to be done. We haven't been able to find out yet exactly all of the school districts that applied and were awarded funds under the Clean School Bus Program, but they will be announcing that. But we work tirelessly with other coalitions to make sure that as many school districts knew about the electric school bus program. And fortunately, there's going to be a 3-year program. So this was the first wave of grants being made to school districts, and there'll be other opportunities as well. But this is just a great, great start. We're so excited about it. And we're excited, and we think that the reason why it resonated with government officials is that it just makes sense to have clean energy school buses, particularly when you're talking about the impact of tailpipe pollution for children, especially children with asthma who have to ride school buses. So it's hard to really say how excited we are that we've been able to make this progress. But it's been a long road, and not just this last 18 months, but really over many years, as Lauren was mentioning, that people who care about these issues have been involved, and we're so glad to see some results.
Thank you so much, Almeda, and just huge congratulations on all the incredible advancements that have happened, especially in the past, 2-3 years. I think that's a huge testament to the organization's work and your work, and just the commitment to, protecting our planet and ensuring that we have clean air for all. So Lauren, I'd love to ask you the next question. So for those of you watching, currently in California, regulators are proposing a new rule called the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly that is and how it can actually advance the transition to electric trucks and buses?
Sure, I can. I also want to congratulate Almeda on all of her work. It really is amazing. So thank you for that. So the Advanced Clean Fleets Rule is a purchase requirement that will require fleets who own trucks to buy zero emission trucks over time. So it has a sort of slow start, but it ramps up over time beginning in 2024, which is right around the corner. So as I mentioned earlier, California has already passed a manufacturer requirement requiring that they start to make zero emission trucks. And so this is the other side of the equation that requires fleets to buy those zero emission trucks. And so we've seen over time that California really leads the way on some of these Clean Air Act, clean air rules. And I hope that, and I think that the California Advanced Clean Fleets Rule and the Advanced Clean Trucks will be another one. We're already seeing a lot of interest in other states, and hoping and seeing that they're starting to pick it up. So the goal here of this rule is that that private fleets and their government fleets were regulated too, but they'll be 100% ZEV by 2040. But EDF and other NGOs, environmental organizations and environmental justice organizations are pushing for the requirement to be moved forward to 2036 or sooner. And I have some more amazing numbers for you, and I'm really sorry to hit you with the numbers, but just moving it forward those 4 years will generate an additional $30 billion. Again, that's B as in billions, in healthcare savings, save up to $84,000 per truck for truck owners. That's why we have all those significant savings from ZEV trucks. And cut 24 million metric tons of climate pollution. Just that little change between 2040 and 2036. So it's major, and it's a no-brainer.
Wow, that's incredible. Every time you were saying B with the billion, I was like, wow, that is an extra zero. When I think of what that investment really really could look like. So that's very exciting. Almida, I'd love to ask you this next question. So now that the bipartisan infrastructure and inflation reduction laws are both officially signed, what's next for the transition?
Well, one of the things we'd like to emphasize and I mentioned this before, as excited as we are about the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act and the funds that are being directed to clean energy school buses and other climate solutions, we still have more to do. We're still going to be active with the Environmental Protection Agency. Lauren mentioned about trucks and transportation. We also are very concerned about cars. We are involved in almost any aspect of clean air that you can think about. And we want to continue to do that and make sure that no one becomes complacent and thinks that this is it. This is all we have to do. There's lots more to do, but it really is a great beginning.
Absolutely. So Lauren, what is the biggest opportunity for medium to heavy duty electric vehicles right now?
Well, I don't want anyone to be complacent either, but there are some good signs on the horizon. And one of those is the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed at the federal level, and I believe Almida and others were involved in. But this will have a really big impact on electrification or ZEVification, because not all zero emission trucks are electric, but of America's truck fleet, as it will on any clean energy sector that it touches. And so the bill features substantial new funding for zero emission trucks. And again, I apologize for throwing numbers at you, but just to give you a sense of scale. Truck owners will be able to get tax credits in the order of tens of thousands of dollars per truck, and even more for infrastructure. And that's on top of all of the natural savings per truck I just mentioned, right? There are $3 billion in grants to support the purchase of zero emission technologies near ports, which are a major sort of hub of pollution, as we know, and $60 million to reduce diesel emissions resulting from goods movements, facilities, and associated vehicles in low income and disadvantaged communities, which is something that's really important. And even $1 billion, like on the other side of that, billions of dollars to ramp up the auto industry to produce all these ZEV vehicles. So again, it's a big deal, and not to be underdone. I don't know if that makes sense, but there are historic incentives from the state of California as well in the amount of about $10 billion. And so there's so much money on the table to get excited about. It is a really exciting time, and almost there's no reason not to invest in zero emission vehicles. And I'll just say one more thing, which is the EDF a year or two ago, because I've completely lost track of time during the pandemic, helped to pass legislation in California that would bring in more private investors with the potential to support to spark a $47 billion global industry. So all of these billions just show us how truly magnificent the potential for change is, and the opportunity is here, and we're here now and we can make it.
The opportunity is quite literally within arm's reach, and the time really is now. And I really hope that our audience takes that away with them, that all these things are possible and that another world is possible. So with that said, Almida and Lauren, you both are doing such incredible work. And I know I've learned so much from all that you have taught me today and just even in previous conversations. So for our audience that feels the same way, how can they get involved and how can they continue to follow and connect with your work?
Well, at Moms, we really are excited to have our volunteers, our super moms, and also other dads and caregivers who are involved. We really encourage people to reach out to us at momscleanairforce.org, or to go to our Facebook page, or to follow us on Twitter, or any place that you see us in social media. We just really want people to make sure that they understand there's plenty of, we have need for everyone who can volunteer and anyone who's willing to participate. We can find a way to make it work for you. So please come to our website or contact a field coordinator if there's one in your state, and we'll give you some great ideas for how to participate.
I guess I'll answer that question next. I would love to go participate with Mom's Clean Air Force, so count me in. But if folks want to get involved with Environmental Defense Fund more broadly, they can follow our Energy Exchange blog. And there's an EDF_EnergyEX Twitter handle. And I really would suggest that people directly contact their representatives, if that's at the state level, the local level, the federal level. You can get involved directly. Contact the Air Resources Board or whatever the equivalent is your state, because you can make a difference. I mean, as well, I said, these things are happening now, right? So let's get involved now.
Absolutely. So I hope everyone watching does follow through with Lauren and Alameda's work and just listens to their advice on different ways to get involved. And I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to chat and just be a part of this conversation series. And with that, conversation 3 has come to an end. But we will be back next week for our final conversation to talk about ecosystems and methane. If you haven't seen the previous curated conversations, please do take the time to watch the other installations, become an EDF member, and join the work being done at edf.org or on social media at Environmental Defense Fund. Whether it's the clean energy economy, environmental justice, or ecosystems, EDF and their over 800 staff members around the world are working to ensure a vital Earth for everyone. See you next time.